What we do here is go back.
So it's 7:30 right now. Got like 5 hours of sleep last night, so I'm pretty dead. I'm gonna head out at about 7:45. Should be there before 8. Yeah. I'm excited to see how this day goes. Hey look guys, we're here! Yay!
What is
Wow!
Make sure we go over there to get a bag, Brad. We need to get a bag.
Okay.
How big your student ministry is, it doesn't matter how big your church is, it doesn't matter how big your dreams are. It really all comes down to people. And God uses people.
Some video, yeah.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Brad.
Welcome to the vlog. Hi.
Brad's active at it. Is this for your assignment?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice, you got me in there.
The best part of today's teens. Look at that.
10 minutes.
My wife's in the room. If I look back there, that's my wife who will nod with what I say. That's Dawn. Hi. We have grade 10 daughter Zoe who's here. She starts driving next week, and my son Ben is here as well. He's in grade 9. But it was interesting as we hit high school. Life kind of seemed to explode. In the last few years, we've had everything from friends of my kids having suicide attempts, struggling with cutting, eating disorders. Seem to be every single girl that we know. It just seems to be chaos. And so I began to have an understanding when I'd speak. I would speak on mental health, and somebody would say, well, how do I talk to my kid about sex? Or I'd be talking about sex, and someone would say, well, how do I deal with social media?
So Daniel, what did you think of the session? Why am I
It was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. You better watch out, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. My session was on porn though.
Huh. Mine was on parenting.
Similar topics.
Yeah. Wanna go to lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Time for the second session. There's a lot of youth leaders and people in here. Yeah. Should be fun.
Pastor for about 4 years, and then my church decided to transition me into a role that's a bit of a weird naming. It's called the Next Generation Worship Leader. So I'm a worship pastor for kids, youth, and young adults. And so it's never, I don't know, I've never seen it done before, at least in Canada, and so I like to say I'm the first of my kind. It's kind of cool. But, and then now I'm doing creative arts for the whole church, and part of that creative arts ministry is also working with our communications department in reaching the next generation using social media.
And if there's not going to be room for mediocrity in terms of faith expression, there will be no room for mediocrity in those of us who lead students to an understanding of what the gospel is. Spiritual well-being of the generation that follows it. Another way of saying this would be that Christianity has always been one generation from extinction, were it not for faithful moms and dads, faithful non-parental adults like you and me, who take seriously the responsibility of investing in the next generation and ensuring that they understand the gospel clearly.
It's all over now. It's all over. What do you think?
About what?
How the day went?
Cool. If I could rate it on a scale from 1 to 10, probably a 5. Actually, like, let's say a 1 is like good and 10 is bad. Probably still a 5. Not.
Oh, okay.
Actually. No, it was good. I'd rate it high.
Youth conference is over. I am going the wrong way. Yeah, it was good. I'm gonna talk about it more when I get back and when I take a nap. Yeah, it was a good day. So yeah, today's teens was great. It was a really good opportunity for the youth and for the youth workers to see what God has in store, and yeah, all the speakers are great. The first opening session was with a guy named Kerry. Don't know how to say his last name, and I'm not gonna bother to try and say it. What I liked what Kerry had to say at first was he gave us an analogy of how our dreams are like the Ottoman, and but we could be like the, I don't know what he said, but we could be like the old pickup truck or the old Ford or whatever you want to say. And what he meant by that is our dreams could be like so big for the church or so big for the future, working with youth, whatever it may be, but it's just focusing on that dream. It can be easy for us to experience burnout, and yeah, sometimes we can focus way too much on that dream that it gets tiring for us, and we might not actually be doing it for God, which is what I got out of it. So yeah, I think it was important that he said that, because a lot of people just don't realize that they're doing so much, and I think it's important to realize that it's important to focus on what we're doing now, and like what you're doing now for the church, and like what's going on, rather than having all these dreams for the church and in the future and working yourself out and day in and day out, and yeah, experiencing burnout. So yeah, I thought it was a good first session and good way to introduce the youth workers to the conference. I haven't experienced burnout myself, and I haven't really gone through tiring myself out, but I know somewhat what it is to be stressed, and I can kind of relate with it, but at the same time I know where to place myself, and yeah, I think it's really important that people realize that, and because for some they don't realize that at all. So yeah, right after that we had the breakout session, I believe, and I went to the one on parenting, and it wasn't exactly like on parenting on like what to do with your kids or what do you do if you have kids per se, but it gave you a good insight of like either if you're working with youth, or if you have kids right away, or if you're if you just have kids in your church family, and just what to do if they're struggling with depression, with anxiety, with addiction, with whatever, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. One thing that I really liked most about it was that he came from a place where he knew a bunch of kids that were dealing with anxiety and food addictions and all that. One thing that shocked me the most about this breakout session was that I'll actually put it I'll put it up, but there's a chart that he showed us that about the world we're living in today with our kids, and yeah, it surprised me how early, like grade 1, we should talk to them about technology, and grade 5 or whatever, they're gonna find out about porn and stuff like that. When it's like, yeah, we think we're shielding or helping shield our kids by not telling them about it, but the realization is they're in a world where that's going to be exposed easily. And yeah, we're gonna have to know how to deal with it and how to handle it and how to talk to these kids. Yeah, so for the second breakout session, we talked about media in the church and technology and the pros and cons with that. And yeah, I thought it was really good. There's not too much that I really learned, but I thought it was just good to, you know, hear from him and see what he had to say. One thing I thought was really interesting was that how he said someday there will be kids that grew up not knowing the world without media, and I thought that was like, bang, that's pretty spot on. Another thing that I wrote down was that he recommends Wi-Fi in the churches, and there are questions like, okay, but what about the people who use the Wi-Fi for bad things? What if they're texting? What, blah blah blah. Yeah, what he said about that was he would challenge those people, and he would ask those people, you know, like, why are you even here if you're not going to listen to the message, or if you're not going to be with the congregation in the moment? And yeah, I thought it was cool because there's a lot of negatives from that, but he gave like a whole bunch of positives, and he just said look at the positives, and there's going to be negatives, but we can address that issue as like a church. And yeah, some of the positives were like, right, if say the pastor has notes, and we can download those notes and refer to them later, or if we can use research for if the pastor is talking about something. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, again, there wasn't really anything that I didn't know, because he also talked about the algorithm of the internet and how that all works and things like that. And yeah, for the last session we had Mark Penner come up and speak to us, and he had quite a lot to say. I didn't gather everything, to be honest, kind of getting tired, but yeah, I actually really liked what he had to say, probably the most out of all of it. Yeah, one thing that really grabbed my attention is when he was talking about the next generation, and like not just the next generation, but generations and generations. And he was talking about how right now we're kind of in a generation where God is getting less and less talked about, and it's being less acceptable by the world. And what I liked what he had to say about that is that maybe God is making it more challenging for us as Christians, so that we may challenge our faith, and so that we can, you know, teach more and more about the gospel, and yeah, bring more believers to Christ. And yeah, another point that I like to make out is when you talked about mediocrity. I put it in the video, so I'm just paraphrasing here, but you talked about how if there's no room for mediocrity when it comes to believing in God, then there should be no mediocrity at all. Like, not just like teaching kids and the younger generation about God. And I thought that was really cool. And yeah, we should like go full out for God and teach kids about Him the best way we can and do our best. Yeah, overall I'd say today's teens was really good. I'd say I learned a few things about myself, just checking where I'm at with God and just realizing what I'm doing, and you know, not to push myself too hard, but also give it my all. And yeah, it's 35 years of today's teens, and yeah, it was good being able to attend it for the first time. And yeah, I'm actually surprised that they had stuff for youth workers as well, and I enjoyed it. It was really good.